Hi guys, welcome. So I released the foam cannon video and tons of comments, which is awesome. So really appreciate you guys watching that. This is going to be a follow-up to the foam cannon video, the video entitled "We're All Testing Foam Cannons Wrong." So if you haven't watched that, you should probably watch that before you watch this, but basically the premise of that was that not all foam cannons are created equally, and a lot of them are diluting different amounts internally. So the MTM, this one dilutes about 1 to 15 internally, and this MJJC, for example, was like 1 to 12, somewhere in that neighborhood. There's a spreadsheet attached to the other video, and I'll link it down below as well, where you can actually look at the results from that test. I thought, well, I want to try to eliminate as many of the variables as possible in this testing and really understand like what's making these different, right? I ordered something called a pin gauge set, which is this thing. You can get these on Amazon. They're about 30 bucks. I'll put a link in the description as well. And you'll see that these are actually in inches. So there's, 0.011 all the way to 0.060. There are a couple different ranges. This is the range that I needed. On my cannons, I'm using a 1.25 orifice. And a 1.25 would be closest to a 0.049. So 0.049 is 1.245 millimeters. And 0.050, which is the next size up, is 1.27 millimeters. So under ideal circumstances, if I have an orifice that I order that's a 1.25, this 0.049 should fit and the 0.050 should not. So I wanted to test these and see, like, they all have the ones that came with them. Which ones are good, which ones are not good, and how accurate these actually are. I did also order a couple different orifices from some random Amazon Chinese sellers, and they arrived, and they, so like this one is a one brand. I'll put a link in the description, but I ordered 3 different ones. There's this one here, no issues. There's this one here, no issues. And there's this one here, no issues. So if you are looking for a replacement because one of yours is out of spec, you can get them from these resellers. So again, link in the description. So basically this should fit and should fit snugly. So you'll see when I put this in here, even though the other side is opened up, like I can't really wiggle this around. It's still pretty snug. So, and if this fits and the 0.050 does not, then that means that I'm within like 0.3% of what it actually should be. So we're getting into small enough numbers that it really shouldn't matter. So then I started testing the individual foam cannons that I have. Here's the MTM PF22.2, and we can actually do it right through the quick connect. There we go. It's obviously easier if you take all of these apart, but so that one fits nice and snugly. If we go up to the 0.050, it does not fit, will not go in. So that's what we would expect. So MTM is within spec. Let's try the soap rinse. This was like the cheapest one that we had in the test. It's like a $20 foam cannon from Amazon. Okay, so the soap rinse actually measured 0.038. That's pretty close to a 1.0. It's actually 0.096. So this is too small of an orifice. So Action Products is accurate. That's 0.049. This is the MJJC Foam Cannon S. 0.048 actually fits better in this. So we got a 0.048, 0.049, 0.049. The MJJC Foam Cannon S. The S is 0.049 right on the dot. Okay. The Griot's is 0.049 as well. So we have 2 cannons that are out of spec. This one is out of spec by quite a bit. It's almost a 1.0, and that is the cheapest cannon, so that makes sense. And this one is off by a very, very small amount, 1/1000th. So this measured 0.048. 0.048 would be 1.22. So what I want to do is swap this out for a new orifice, and then we will retest the MJJC Foam Cannon Pro, and I'll swap out the soap rinse. We'll retest the soap rinse. And then I also have the new active. This is just elimination of one variable. And this one is brass, so it does have some calcification on it where my stainless steel ones do not. So it is possible that with a little bit of coaxing, like it's really close to 0.049, it just doesn't go all the way through. It's possible that it's calcification and that this actually came with a 0.049. So I don't want to knock MJJC like in the quality department. It just so happens that it's brass. And I use DI water, and DI water is hard on brass. So that's, you know, probably more a byproduct of my situation than it is an actual knock against MJJC. So there is the proper 0.049. And let's pop this guy off, and we'll change this one out as well. So now these should all be accurate. Now I do have one more spare orifice that is accurate. I'm going to leave that in here. These two I'm going to throw away. On today's test we're going to do a couple things. So number one, we're going to retest this and this with the new orifice size and see if there are any changes. I'm going to retest one of these as a control. So I'm going to use the MJJC S because the clear bottle and the weighted ball makes it a little bit easier to see when I'm actually doing the test. We'll put these other three away for now. The griots, the MTM, and the Action products. Now let's unbox this. This is the new active. As you've probably seen on other videos, it comes in this pretty black box. I ordered this on Sunday. It arrived today. Today is Wednesday. I live in California. It was FedEx. So even despite it being FedEx, it still arrived. Bottle's nice. We've got a weighted tube, we've got orifices, we've got, so this was not set to me for free. I paid for this, my own money. I used Keeve's code. That saved me 20%, 10%, something like that. I think it's Cars with Keeve accessories. No, Keeve active accessories, I think was the code, something along those lines. If you just check out Cars with Keeve's YouTube channel, I'm sure that it's in his description, but I like saving money too. So let's see what we've got here. Oh, these are actually labeled 1.45, 1.10, and 1.35. Oh, there's probably one in here, which is the 1.25. Yes, 1.25 is already installed. Perfect. So let's try again my 0.049. Let's make sure that this fits. It does. Perfect. And let's try my 0.050 and make sure that this doesn't fit. Perfect. Okay. So that is accurate. These are the other three that we received from them, and I'll just keep those in here for now. And then, yeah, we could talk about the build quality and stuff. I'm sure you've seen this on other people's channels, but it's got a nice gray head. This is awfully flopsy. It's like they stole the one thing that sucks about the MTM, which is that this thing is just like all over the freaking place. It's got this giant knob on the top of it. I wish somebody would build one without a knob because I just don't see why we need them. Nobody ever runs them like other than full strength. Everybody turns it all the way full strength, at least every video I've ever seen. If I was making a cannon, I'd remove this, and I would make it just vertical and make it so that this actually stayed and that you could adjust the fan, maybe have some detents, something like that. That's the way I do it. Stainless head is nice. There look to be some anti-leak things in here. There's two of them, two breathers, like the griots, which is awesome. It's one of my favorite parts about the griots. It's got a nice weighted ball, big opening on the end of it. I don't know if it will fit a metering tip, probably not, because it's too big, I think. Yes. So no metering tip for you. If you did want to use a metering tip, you could probably swap out the griot's ball to the end of this and be able to use the metering tip. But at that point, you probably should have just bought the griots, because the griots comes with a metering tip and it's around the same money. Threads look nice. Bottle looks nice. It's definitely the most attractive cannon in terms of like looks that I've seen so far. Nice and sturdy. So yeah, cool. All right. So it looks like we've got 4 cannons to test. I'm going to start off with the MJJC S because that one is the control. That is going to be our tester. Okay. So there's our 500. All right, so if you don't know what I'm doing because you haven't watched the other video, basically what I'm doing is testing the internal dilution of this cannon. So I've got it turned all the way up. I'm going to run this until I run it out of water. Then I'm going to measure the amount of total water collected and figure that out. So okay. All right, so the S did give us slightly different results today. We went from about 12.4 to 1 to about 12.7 to 1. It's not a huge number, but it is a decent percentage, about 3% difference day to day. And I don't really know why that was different, because it's the same cannon, same amount of water, same weight, same test, but it's close. So, 3% isn't a big number, and I'm talking about 25% from cannon to cannon. So I think that we're good to proceed. So we're going to do the soap rinse again with the right orifice. Put this on here, zero this out. This will be interesting too, because we'll see if the orifice size makes a huge difference. It should. Okay, there's the soap rinse. All right, we're gonna call that. The pickup tube isn't quite the best on the soap rinse, so I have to be reasonable about it. So 8234. So last, we're gonna test the active. So I do like, this has like an O-ring and stuff in it. The build quality of this is actually pretty awesome. I realized that the bottle was able to break when it was dropped off a brick wall. I don't know that that's necessarily a fair test. I don't really throw my active off of, or my foam cannon off of brick walls, but maybe some people are harder on equipment than I am. 500, okay. And lines are good on this. Turn this all the way on, open this up a little bit, and we're gonna test the active. $60.10, very, very interesting. So that would make this similar to like the Action, where it's not really diluting much at all. So why were people having trouble getting it to foam then? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, that was certainly surprising. So what I saw with the active is it actually measured right around 11 to 1, 11.02. So the active, I started off with 500 milliliters of product inside the bottle. Total, I put out 6,010, which leaves 5,510 or 5.5 liters of water to 500 milliliters of product. It's 11.02 to 1. And yeah, it's surprising because I saw a number of videos where people had trouble getting the active to foam. I wonder if they were using the wrong orifice size, but I saw a number of videos where people were having trouble getting the active to foam. So my assumption was that it was going to come in at something like, 15 to 1 or 20 to 1 like the Griots does, where it's diluting the crap out of your soap, and therefore you need to put more soap in the bottle to actually make it perform. Now it seems like Keeve actually had opposite of this, because he tested his and the active took longer to empty than his MJJC Foam Cannon S did. So that makes me think that there might be some manufacturing differences, or some, maybe because we're running different volume of water through the cannons, that could produce different numbers. I don't know, it's really, really interesting. There's two pieces here. Number one, reducing variables. We eliminated a couple variables. We'll go over the results here in just a minute. As far as wrapping up the active is concerned, I think the active build quality is great. I like the triangular bottle. I like the big fat base on it. I like the fact that it's clear. I like clear bottles better than white bottles. I know they're not as durable, but I don't throw mine off of walls. But it feels like it's not really innovative. If you're making a foam cannon in 2024, when all of these products have existed for years, why wouldn't you innovate? right? Like, okay, so it's got basically the same nozzle as the MTM does, very similar in shape and size, right? I know it's not the same. It's got yellow on the tip and, you know, this and that, but it's got the same, like, this is always loose. And it's got a detent for side to side, which is cool, but like, why do we need side to side? Who uses side to side foam? Nobody does. Yes, it's stainless, but you know, the Griot's is stainless also, and you know, other brands have been doing stainless for a while. So like, yes, cool. I'm glad it's stainless and not another brass foam cannon. Yes, the orifice is stainless. That's nice. They give you 4 different orifices in the box. That's also nice. It's got this big giant knob on here, but like, why do we still have a knob? Nobody ever turns this to the minus. I've never seen a video where somebody turns this to the minus. And the reason for that is like, yes, this allows you to further dilute what's in here. So theoretically you could run like straight soap in here and you could turn this down and you could run it with like no metering tips or something along those lines and adjust your PIR. But there's no detents. There's no way to like keep this in a particular place. So therefore it's like, what's the use of this? It's as good as the Griot's, but in a different way, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, I like the bottle a little bit better than the Griot's. I like that it's stainless like the Griot's. They both have the stupid knob that they don't need. This stays put a little bit better than this does. This is just a little bit easier to turn than this is, but it's not by much. So, you know, we'll say that that's pretty neutral. They both don't leak all over your hand when you turn them upside down, which is really nice. I like that. So it has the same one-way valve style as the Griot's does. But like, it's the end of 2024. Why wouldn't you release a foam cannon that has like no freaking knob on it? Or a knob that actually has numbers or some sort of adjustment where you're actually impacting the dilution and you know what you're doing? Why wouldn't you release something that just has like detents where this stays wherever you set it and doesn't move all the time? Because everybody complains about that. You know, why would you not do metering tips when other people already are? Maybe that's a patent issue, I don't know. But like, if somebody else has metering tips, why wouldn't you give that as an option? They don't have to use them. You don't have to use the metering tips of the Griot's. So it's like, I don't know, it's pretty, it's nice, it looks good on your shelf. I think that it performs well, but I just don't see the reason. I would still buy the Griot's. I still think the Griot's is better. Now, they're around the same price. I know this is like $100 normally. This is like $80 right now. I know there's 10% off coupons right now for Black Friday and because they're new accessories. But honestly, I found this on eTrailer.com. It's not even an affiliate link. I found this on eTrailer.com for $80 shipped. So I can get both of these for $80 right now. I'm gonna buy the Griot's, honestly. And the reason I'm gonna do that, there's 3. Number 1, I like the nozzle design a little bit better. That's more personal, but I feel as though it stays with its shape a little bit better than any of the others do, besides maybe the MJJC. MJJC is a little bit tighter on the nozzle. Number 2, these bottles are readily available and you can actually buy chemicals in the bottles, so you can get more of these bottles pretty easily. They're also more durable because they're white, so even if they do hit the ground, they're probably not going to break as easily. And I have multiple of the bottles, which I find really nice. The next thing is the metering tips. Like I mentioned, the metering tips are optional, but they are tips that you can put into this ball and it will suck straight soap out of this, and it makes it really easy to like dial in your PIR. And if you're running straight soap in one of these, you can wash like 20 cars before you have to fill up your cannon, which is kind of cool. The other thing that I really like is this. You see on the center there's some threads. Well, those threads fit most 16-ounce bottles. So if you pick up like a bottle of Koshchemi GFX from Obsessed Garage today because it's back in stock for Christmas and you want to just run GFX, stick a metering tube on this, screw it in the top of the bottle, and you're good to go. You don't even need to dump it into your other bottle. So I don't know. It's a cool foam cannon. I'm not going to knock active. I mean, it's nice, but I just don't see what the point was in making another one that's the same as everyone else's or very similar to everyone else's. Yes, it dilutes 11-to-1, which is stronger than almost anybody else, but it's right in between the Action products and the MJJC in my testing. So the Action actually dilutes less and the MJJC dilutes more. One is 10-to-1, the other is 12-to-1. So I don't know, it doesn't like really fill a spot that didn't exist. It's just another foam cannon that you can buy in your selection process. It's not remarkably cheap. It's not remarkably high quality. It's not remarkably different. But it is pretty. And you know, I'll keep it, I'll use it. I'm sure it'll enter the rotation. I have 7 foam cannons now. So clearly that's how many you need, is 7. But yeah. So as far as the active is concerned, that's my review. Again, didn't get this for free, bought it with my own money. Seems fine. I don't have any affiliate codes. If you want an affiliate code, I think Keith still has some. I'll put a link in the description to Amazon. Amazon will give me a 5% kickback if you buy it from them, but you're probably not going to save any money. I think they're cheaper on active products right now. I remeasured the MJJC-S at 6820 today, which modified the dilution slightly. Like I said, it went from 12.4 to 12.6. So not a huge jump, but just something to notice that I did have different experience today than I did last time. And I don't really have a great reason for why. I tested the orifice size in all of the original cannons that I had tested last time, and I found that I had two that were out of variance. One was the MJJC Pro at 0.048. The other was the soap rinse at 0.038. So that one's obviously off by a lot. That's like a 1.0. This is like a 1.24 instead of a 1.25. Pretty small variance there. I retested the soap rinse with a 1.25 in it, and I saw that my results changed from 82.92 to 82.34. So I went from a 15.58 to a 15.47. So it doesn't seem like the orifice size changes this very much, honestly. That's the reason why I didn't retest the MJJC Pro today, because this one should have been a big drastic change and it was not. So the active is new in our test. So we did 500 milliliters of product. We resulted in 6,010, which is 5510 of water, leading to a dilution of 11.02 to 1. So obviously, like if we had a full cannon and we needed to hit our target dilution of 1 to 100, using our GSF example from last week, we would need about 100 milliliters of soap and 900 milliliters of water. Its PIR neat is 8.32%. Ignore the Kiev column. That was just a conversation that I was having offside with him. And then these are the orifice measurements. So again, this will be linked in the description. You can see a read-only copy of this chart. Use it for your own amusement. What should you do with this information? Well, I mean, honestly, if you're happy with what you have, nothing. You don't have to necessarily care about it. The point of this is, when manufacturers are designing a soap, they are designing that soap to have a specific PIR, or panel impact ratio. They want a certain amount of that soap per the amount of water that's actually on your car. Built Hambler is really the only one that comes to mind that advertises this and explains this on their packaging. So they say that they want a between 0.5% and a 2% panel impact ratio. So I think this really comes down to just knowing your products, knowing your cannon, knowing what it's actually doing. I now know that an MJJC Foam Cannon S is going to do about 12.5 to 1 dilution internally. And that if I'm targeting something like a 100 to 1 dilution, because that's what the manufacturer is calling for, or a 1% PIR, then I know that I need to do like an 8 to 1 dilution inside my bottle, because 8 times 12.5 is 100. I was bringing it up as a point when you're looking at videos or when other people are testing these foam cannons, because I think that it's actually more relevant for somebody who's testing foam cannons and showing the performance of those foam cannons on a channel than it is for the average Joe, the average person using their stuff. I think when you're a person who is cleaning cars in your driveway, you're a person who's cleaning cars professionally, you find a soap that you like, you find a foam cannon that you like, you come up with a dilution that works for you, and you stick with that dilution. You're very consistent with that dilution. But in order to carry that consistency from cannon to cannon to cannon to cannon, you really need to measure and understand what your cannons are doing. So, you know, for example, if I wanted to go from the new active cannon that I just picked up to a Griot's cannon, I would actually need to multiply the soap by like 1.5 times, or put in like 3/4 the amount of water. And that is a pretty big difference. So if I were to A to B those two cannons with the same mixture in them, what you're going to see is that one outperforms the other in my test on video. We can actually just show that here really quick. I can show you what I mean by that. But that doesn't mean that the active sucks or that the Griot sucks or that anything like that. They can both be effective with the right mixtures. It's just understanding what the cannons are doing, because nobody's really advertising. This cannon gives you an 11 to 1 internal dilution ratio. Okay. This one gives you a 15 to 1 internal dilution ratio. Nobody is telling you that. So let's say a manufacturer tells you to put 2 ounces of soap in a foam cannon. 2 ounces is about 60 milliliters. If you put 2 ounces in a full cannon of action, so you put 60 ounces in, you add the 940 water, fill it all the way up, and you connect the action head to that bottle, your effective dilution is right around 155 to 1. So your panel impact ratio in your car is about 0.6%. If you take that same mixture and you put it in the MTM, you're gonna get about 255 to 1. So that's a pretty big difference. You can't always just dump the same mixture of water into a different foam cannon and expect it to perform the same as your last one did. It's just not reasonable. I'm gonna leave you with this. This is a mixture that was made for the Grios, in the Grios. And we're going to just spray across the driveway. You see that we get good foam, but it's fairly runny, right? That was a mixture that was made for the Grios. So what I'm gonna do then is I'm gonna take this top off of here, just like that. We're going to take the active top, we're gonna put it on here, and recognize the fact that this doesn't screw on, so I'm gonna have to hold this. Trying not to take it out of the shot so you can see that I'm not messing with the cannon in any way. So, pretty big difference in the foam thickness, the stickiness of the foam. And that's because the Grios is putting a lot more water out than the Active is. The Active is actually using almost 1.5 times the amount of soap on the pavement. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. Next time what I want to do is I want to make up a mixture that is the same PIR after cannon for each cannon, spray them all and see how they perform.